Hi, everyone. I wanted to jump on here today to talk a little bit about weight, weight loss, ideal weight, ideal beauty. A lot of you have been seeing my own physical transformation, have been asking me questions and how I've been doing this. And it's interesting because this has been on my mind for a little bit. One of the things is I've seen a lot of transformational videos, people posting their before and after shots and things of that nature. But something came to my mind. I realized that a lot of people don't show the process per se. And when they are at a place where they like the way that they look, then they're comfortable sharing the before pictures because then they're like, oh, that looks so bad. And look how good I look now. And I realized yeah, I don't quite agree. And it's interesting because a lot of the times when I look at sometimes the before and after when there's dramatic changes, I'm like, yeah, but I like the way they look before better. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that because that you won't see me post those pictures because it's almost as if they're comfortable posting after they've gone to where they want to be. So now we can talk about how bad they look before. But my transformation wasn't like that. My transformation has been one of acceptance at different phases of my journey. But before I go into that, I wanted to talk a little bit about how Ayurveda views, body type or things of that nature, because it has a huge influence on how we deal with weight, how we put on weight, and how we're able to lose it, depending on what our dosha is. So Ayurveda states that we're all made up out of the five elements. Everything around us is today. I'm in a lot of my little garden by my window. Um, Everything has the elements in it, even the table, everything that was created has the five elements in it outside of us. But inside of us, we're also made up of the five elements, but all of us are made up out of a different amount, a unique formula for which element do we have more of. And when we have more of a certain element, it's visible in our physical appearance, the way that our skin feels, the way that our eyes are formed, our nose, our mouth, our ears. Everything there is a reflection of how much of a particular element is predominant in our nature. So that's called our dosha. So our makeup is that percentage of the unique formula of the elements. Now, the thing is that all of that not only is visible in our physical nature, but also in our mind body composition. So, also the way that we think, the way that we process information, the way that we express ourselves, because it has that impact as well. Even the brain has that component of how much of the elements are predominant there, our heart, our everything. So, it impacts. We can say that when we look at the at any substance, depending on what type of substance it is, how dense is that substance, how fluid is that substance, is going to make a difference how it responds to heat or air or dry, or what we do with it when we throw it, when we squish it. All that depends on the makeup of that particular object. So why wouldn't that be the same for us? We're made up out of those elements, so why wouldn't we respond differently if there's more of a particular element that's in our makeup? So that's why it's so important to understand our own elemental nature, and Ayurveda gives us that. So because of that, when there's a particular element that's more predominant for a particular person, then there's a tendency towards particular mannerisms or physical way that we may look. So in Ayurveda, there are some body types, since I'm talking about the body particularly. When we look at the body, so a vata person who is a mixture of the air and ether element predominantly, will have a more slender, more long body frame. A pitta, who is more a fire element, and a water element, will be more of the medium size, and have particular features as well. And then the kapha, which is the ether, I'm sorry, the earth, that's what I was trying to say, the earth and water element will have more of that dense, more of that stocky form. But when you see that that's the body shape and that's their predominant shape, then it also depends on what's internally the workings of that individual. And that will be the way that they process, digest food, how they store, you know, fat or weight, how it comes on. So with that information, we already know that depending on someone's dosha, they are have either a higher metabolism, they have more digestive fire, they're able to, they're more energetic, they have more energy, so they're able to burn off more. So there's a variety of reasons just on a ayurvedic physical level that will determine, you know, someone's ability to digest food, to metabolize, to burn, and so also their predisposition when it comes to weight. So we already know that there's so many variety of body types that are out there because of their unique combination and their ability to either put on weight or keep on weight. Plus, now we're thinking of there's their mental desire for particular foods because of their elemental makeup. So they'll have more of a desire for a particular food. And a lot of times you'll see people, they say, I don't crave sweets. I don't care for sweets. Right. So it's not per se that they trained themselves, which is another component. It is possible. But I'm just talking about the natural tendency, the predisposition. Now, overcoming that is going to be different for everybody, because once you understand what your elemental nature is, once you understand what it is that you're most likely to do, then you can work individually with your particular dosha and begin to see how you can balance that more equally. But knowing this information too, then that goes to show like what is an ideal weight and what is an ideal beauty, an ideal body type. If you have to really think about that, that means that it makes no sense that there is one, you know, because of the variety of who we are. But I understand, you know, because even in Ayurveda, you have to think that, you know, perhaps the pitta, which is the more average, medium size, will be more of the ideal weight or the ideal body type or body frame, depending on what it is. But then again, a kapha body type, they have a lot more endurance. They're strong. You know, they have that ability. So it really depends on the circumstances. It really depends on what it is that you want to do in your life. That's going to determine what is the ideal weight or the ideal body frame for you. But that brings me to, so besides, I wanted to just the myth of what is the perfect body size. I don't know, and I think for all of us, it's going to be different. So we all have to determine what is our individual weight that we're comfortable with, what we can do. But to bring it back to what you're all asking me, what is the motivation though? What is the motivation, you know, for the weight loss? And for me, it's different maybe than for other people. One, I did go into it from an Ayurvedic perspective, and I understood that there was, you know, that there was weight that was over what, even though my body composition would naturally be a much more of a larger body type, even though my body type would be more of the kapha, the earth and water body type. So I don't have an expectation that I will be that lanky, that form. That's not going to be my ideal weight, and that's also not what I'm striving for. But I do know that there was a balance that I was not in, that I was over a particular balance. And so I had to make that determination for myself. But my indicator for my well being was more of the medications that I was on that I didn't want to be on. You know, I knew that once I was put on to blood pressure medication, that there was something I needed to look at. And that to me was my indication that I needed to lose some weight, because I knew that it was something that I could actually change. There was something that I could actually do differently that would allow me to not have to be dependent on those. So that was my motivation. But secondly, the other motivation is when I think we don't realize that when we talk about weight and we want to say, well, wait, this looks good, this is whatever that discussion is, that's an aesthetic, that's an aesthetic decision, and that's going to be different for everybody. So we're going to be happy, but for me it was a mobility issue. And a lot of people always said, oh, you carry your weight well. What does that mean? They carry your weight well. That means that they don't expect me to be able to move the way that I do because of my weight. So that means people think she shouldn't be walking like this, or she shouldn't be able to cross her legs like that because of her weight. So even though people said that to me for a long time, that I carry my weight well, that means they didn't expect for me to do things. I realized in this process of my own exercise journey that there were things that I couldn't do, or that I had told myself that I couldn't do for myself. This is even though people see that I was doing more than what they thought that I could do. There were things that I had said that I wasn't able to do because I felt of my weight. And now that, though, is not something that anybody told me, but it's something that I told myself, maybe of things that I've seen outside, external stimuli that had told me that. But I didn't know until I started doing some of the exercises. I started going for kickboxing, and they said, okay, burpees. And I was like, oh, there's no way that I'm going to do a burpee. There's no way that I could do a burpee. And that's because I looked at myself, my body, I can't, there's no way. So mobility became my motivation. I said, well, why can't I want to be able to move, because mobility is not something that is only for particular people. If I need to climb up a ladder to do something, if I need to run because the dog's running behind me, if I have to get away out of danger, I want to be able to move. So it became for me something that is, how can I sustain myself and my life and be secure, that I don't need, someone to help me and then I'm stuck. So mobility came for me. I started noticing, what are the things? Can I carry my grocery bags to my car without having to make 2, 3 trips? Or, can I bring my things up the stairs better? Can I can I get into a tight space and screw something on? Minor things like that we really didn't think of. So that became my motivation in terms of my mobility. And so I had to start jumping, something small. And I was like, gosh, I haven't jumped. Why? Because I think I told myself that I wouldn't be able to do it. Right. So something minor. So beginning to jump in, and I realized that I was able to, and beginning to do that. But in this challenge, in this increasing my mobility, I was able to then lose weight in that process. And when I started doing that, and I started to see, my abilities increase in terms of mobility and being, endurance. Then that became my motivating factor. So no, aesthetically, I'm okay. Aesthetically, I'm like, yeah, good. But the more that I'm able to move and the more that I'm independent, that was my factor. Independent for myself in terms of other people, but also independent of having to rely on particular medications that I know or I am able to get off, especially when it comes to weight. So the journey itself, though, was that every time when I had to look at that before picture, each time a before picture, and I don't share it. I mean, I've showed my close friends, but for me, it is was accepting at every moment. I accept that person. I accept that aesthetic. And so each journey was a journey of acceptance of the body. So no, I don't have to show before because it wasn't bad. There's no after to show, because at each point that was me. At each point that was what I was accepting. And yes, I'm changing because that's life, and that's the journey of which I'm going, because I want to move more. I want to do more martial arts. I want to be able to do the things that I enjoy better. And part of that process has been getting better, losing weight, and eating healthier and moving more. These were things that I do. But no, my ideal is not to be, a particular frame. It's being okay with myself within my unique dosha body balance. And so, whatever it is going to be that is your motivation, I think that first acceptance is accepting where I'm at. Okay, that's fine. And then as you're accepting, I think you're more willing to look at what your real reasons are and that it's not always an aesthetic. And when you know what your real reasons are, you're more motivated, to go there and to be able to make those changes for yourself. So, whatever your journey is, if there's anything that I can do to help you, to guide you towards the way, you can always message me. So, good luck on your own journey.